Japan, a land of ancient traditions, mysterious legends, and hauntingly beautiful landscapes, is a place where the veil between the living and the dead is said to be especially thin, and where the ghosts and spirits of the past still roam. As a result of such a statement, many terrifying stories have emerged throughout time. As to the validity of these stories, well, that's up to you to decide. Such an example is that of the Inunaki Tunnel, known as one of the most haunted areas in Japan. This tunnel, located deep in the Inunaki countryside of Kyushu's Fukuoka prefecture, is the site of numerous real murders. One such case is that of the brutal 1988 murder of Yumeyama Koichi. Yumeyama, who was just 20 years old at the time, was a victim of robbery and kidnapping at the hands of a group of local teens. In their attempt to hijack his vehicle, the teens abducted, tortured, and later burned Yumeyama to death inside the Inunaki Tunnel, leaving him there to die. The teens were arrested and sentenced to life in prison soon after. Whilst it is a site where real crimes took place, the supernatural is known to wander as well. There is a legend of a couple who at some time in the 70s were traveling within Fukuoka. Just as they were about to approach the Inunaki Tunnel, they heard a rattling sound with their car coming to a stop. Upon exiting their car, they found that their engine had died, leaving them stranded in the middle of nowhere. In their desperation, they noticed a passage heading into the tunnel and decided to leave their car behind in pursuit of help. Along their walk through the rigid and overgrown trail, they discovered a sign that read, "The Japanese Constitution is not in effect past this point." Confused, but feeling reassured at the prospect of help, they continued until they came across a village, only to find it abandoned and deteriorating. They descended deeper into the village, looking around for any sign of inhabitants, but were disappointed to find no one. A strange chill began to build up in their chests before they decided to return to their car. As they began to turn away from the village, they heard a noise from the dwelling closest to them. Suddenly a man appeared on the porch. The man welcomed them to the village, and in the next motion, suddenly slit their throats with a sickle. It is said that anyone who has the misfortune of coming across the tunnel will be greeted by the couple's abandoned vehicle, their decomposed bodies, and soon after, their own death. Present day, the tunnel has been shut on both ends, so visitors can no longer enter. Despite it being closed up, locals say electronic devices and cars break down around the tunnel, and you can hear the sound of dogs barking and growling, maybe even hear a screech coming from the belly of the tunnel's darkness. It is unknown if this tunnel really does possess signs of an unnatural force, or whether the real murders have embellished urban legends. With the tunnel being blocked off, it is difficult to truly ascertain its nature. However, this next story is one of an abnormal object that can be personally witnessed even today. In 1918, while on a tour in Sapporo, a 17-year-old Ikichi Suzuki purchased a doll for his 2-year-old sister Okiku. The doll, which he spotted in a shop window, had a captivating aura that drew him in, and he did not hesitate to buy it, using his last bit of money. Its mesmerizing and enchanting features took his breath away, with its piercing coal-like eyes seemingly swallowing everything in their gaze. Upon returning home, Suzuki gifted the doll to Okiku, who fell in love with it instantly. The figurine became her favorite toy and best friend, accompanying her everywhere she went. Okiku took great care of the doll, treating it like a little sister by talking, feeding, and even sleeping with it. She named it after herself, calling it Okiku, which was a perfect mirror duplicate of her. However, tragedy struck a year later in 1919 when Okiku died from yellow fever. Gasping for air and in pain while holding onto the doll, she was only 3 years old. The family intended to bury the doll with Okiku, but due to governmental oversight, this act of kindness was prevented, and the doll was never laid to rest alongside her. Grief-stricken, the family placed the doll in a shrine to honor her. However, the family noticed something odd about the doll over time. Its hair was getting longer. The family believed the doll possessed the restless spirit of their deceased daughter, and so looked after it until entrusting it in the care of Maninji Temple. There the doll remains, slowly growing human hair. You can visit Okiku, but today, even after a few trims from the temple's priests, the doll's hair has grown past his knees, with the priests claiming to have nightmares of Okiku, and visitors saying the doll's mouth is slowly opening and sprouting baby teeth. Which brings me to my next story, that of paranoia and cruelty. During Japan's Sengoku period in the 16th century, the Takeda clan was known for their immense wealth, thanks to their flourishing gold mining operations in the landlocked area. The clan had employed many guards, miners and women to entertain their men, ensuring that their valuable resources were protected. Not all of the gold that was mined, however, was used for war. Some were buried in the hills as offerings to the gods. Despite this, the peaceful times were disrupted by a warring period that led to the Takeda clan's defeat. As a result, they became increasingly paranoid about their gold and stockpiles being discovered by their enemies. The Takeda clan's paranoia turned to an obsession, and they began to target the women who entertained their men, fearing that they might have learned the gold's location. These women were unaware of the clan's intentions, so when they received an invitation to a party on a newly constructed bridge, they couldn't refuse. As the party commenced, the women were dancing and singing on the bridge, enjoying themselves, when suddenly, the Takeda guards appeared, wielding weapons and charging towards the bridge. The women, shocked and terrified, tried to run, but they were quickly surrounded. The guards then proceeded to cut down the wisteria vines holding up the bridge's support, causing it to collapse into the Yanagisawa River. The women screamed in horror as they plunged into the icy water. Many died on impact. The ones who survived, however, would find their bodies thrashing about until they were consumed by the current. Eventually, the bodies of the women were discovered downstream by the villagers of Tabayama, who then retrieved them. After the incident, the Takeda clan thought they had buried their secrets, but they were wrong. The spirits of the 55 women who perished on that bridge were said to be imprinted on the land, haunting the area to this day. Even now, the bridge remains a symbol of tragedy and horror, a reminder of the dark past that haunts the area. Those who dare to cross it at night do so at their own peril, but the spirits of the women still linger, waiting to claim their next victim. Present day, those who cross the bridge at night reported hearing eerie screams and seeing apparitions of the women in their colorful kimonos. Some claim to have even seen the ghosts of the women dancing and singing on the bridge, reliving their last moments before their tragic deaths. Japan holds an enormous amount of tales of the unknown. Does the people have just an obsession with the supernatural, or does there really exist a reason as to why the unexplainable is drawn to this country? I cannot tell. However, before I depart, do not open that.